Gilmore to Andrechuk, shooting, score! Dave Andrechuk hits the 50 mark, down the backing, Clark racism. Holy Mackinac, he got three!
Good morning, Maple Leaf fans. Welcome back to the Leafs Lounge for Thursday, February 29th. Leap year, very exciting.
Ooh.
Everyone loves those leap years, extra day. Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You know, trade deadline fast approaching. So,
Yes.
you know, it's that kind of year where you go on Cap Friendly and you type in anything you want. And I was like searching through it before we got on, and some of these trades, not even just Leaf trades, just trades in general are just brutal.
Yeah, I think for the next week and a bit, I'll be living on Cap Friendly. Everything is just what kind of draft picks does this team have? What do we have to give up? What's our prospects looking like? Contract situation. It's a fun time for sure for any hockey fans, but especially when you're a Leaf fan and pretty much half of the trade talk online revolves around our team.
Your
It's fun.
team, exactly.
Love it. Yeah, so we're going to get into that. We're going to have a really exciting show today, I believe, because we're going to talk about what possible deadline targets you and I both have and get into some mock trades. I recall, Justin, you, like myself, are a big fantasy football, fantasy hockey guy. So this is kind of well suited for us coming up with these trades. We'll be coming up with trades that probably people who are listening or watching are saying, who are these clowns? Like, what the hell is this? That would never go through. But that's what makes it fun, guys. We know these probably aren't the trades that will happen, but hey, if we kind of have well thought out ones, you never know. It might kind of pan out close to what we are proposing here today.
Yeah.
So before we get into that, let's kind of do a preview of tonight's game. I don't think either of us really want to dwell on the Vegas game Tuesday night. I don't think the final score was really indicative of the game. I think the Leafs were in it the whole time. That horrible giveaway by JT to give Vegas the third goal. If that does not happen, I think we have a more competitive outcome. But do you have any kind of thoughts on the game before we move into tonight?
Sure, but it's funny because on Tuesday you said so much how Riley and Brody, like, they can't be together, and I was like, yeah, I could see it, but maybe give them one last chance. No, I'm on your side completely. That pairing was brutal. I think they're -3 together.
At least, I think even a 4. I think it might have been 4. I think Riley was on the ice for 5 goals.
I think Riley was
on the ice for 1. Yeah, awful.
Yeah. And so the first goal was what? Brain cramp, nobody's paying attention, and the guy just gets a breakaway. So you're an NHL defenseman. You have to be aware of your man, right?
Yeah.
This is a brutal mistake. The second mistake was equally as bad. And then the third one with JT is just worst giveaway of the night. And you could tell, like, he's beating himself up. He's beating himself up over it all game.
Yeah.
And
I think it was probably the most emotion he showed in his whole time here.
Yeah, they're speculating, like Mike Johnson was saying, he thinks JT's banged up. So
maybe
if he's actually banged up, why let him rest?
Right.
The Leafs we have some leeway in a playoff spot, and we're not going to get into second Atlantic or even win the division with it hurt JT. You know?
No, agreed. And so obviously,
if he's dealing with something, sit him out for a week. Let him rest. It's not going to get any easier. Rangers play a tough game. We face them Saturday. Then next week, the Bruins. We face them twice in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. Those are some heavy-hitting teams that JT's not going to get any healthier facing them.
No, agreed. And obviously, we don't expect him to say anything other than, no, I am 100% healthy. But if he's also saying that same thing to Sheldon Keefe, I mean, just the competitiveness of your average hockey player, he's going to say, yeah, I feel good enough to go. And yeah, I want to be in the lineup. And probably a tough argument if you're Sheldon Keefe to have with your captain to say, yeah, you got to sit down if JT say, no, I'm ready to go, throw me in there. So, yeah, we'll have to see. Hopefully it's not anything serious. But yeah, I kind of feel the same way about the game. Like bad turnovers proved to be costly. And look, I mean, Vegas is a good team. I don't think anyone who thought after how we played in Vegas a week prior, anyone who thought like, yeah, it's going to be just as easy again against them, you're probably fooling yourself. They're a team, defending cup champions, even without Mark Stone, Jack Eichel, those defensemen there, absolute towers back there. Like they're a tough team. So
no, and they have a lot of pride too.
At all.
They have a lot of pride. They lost 4 in a row. They haven't played good hockey lately. Obviously missing their 2 stars.
Right.
And they came into Toronto, and Toronto obviously off the long road trip just didn't have their A game. And if you don't bring your A game against Vegas, they're going to beat you. I don't even think the Leafs had their B game. I think it was more of a C- game,
Yeah, that's fair. Well, and look, and the Leafs are certainly not the first team to come off a West Coast road trip and have an absolute dud the first game at home. So I'm not too worried about that one.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help when the refs, like some brutal calls. The first one on McMahon in the first period, like he's just falling down and you give him a tripping call. Like, how many times does that happen a game? I feel like goes uncalled just as often as it may get called. And then the Brody one, 50-50. Then
I thought like the McMahon, Brody, and Marner were all like, sure, I can see where you would think there was an infraction there, but you would hope that at least one, if not 2 of those don't get called in a game that's pretty competitive. It's a physical game. They were both throwing a ton of hits. If you're going to pick out those 3 as must-call penalties, and then you don't find anything else on Vegas, like what? I think Vegas had 4 power plays. We maybe had 1. Like,
yeah, we did. Yeah.
So,
I mean, and then the Marner one, when after Reeves scores, it's 4-2. Everybody's like, hey, 5 minutes left. It was around 4 something left. Comeback time. Leafs have done it before. Why not again? And then, that penalty kind of skewers any chances. And
totally.
He fell on his own. I get exactly what Keith was saying, and I understand why he was upset.
Yeah.
And, just one of those games where nothing goes your way. So hopefully things switch around tonight. It's not going to be any easier. The Yotes have lost 13 straight. But
it should be easier, but yeah.
We overcame the trap once. We can do it again.
Yeah, in Arizona, we know I don't know what their record is playing in Toronto against us, but I think they've won, I want to say 5 or 6 in a row. So definitely, it feels like your prototypical trap game, as you said. Arizona has lost 13 games in a row. They've given up 60 goals in that time. My quick math tells me that's almost 5 goals allowed per game, which to me suggests that the only possible outcome tonight is the Yotes to win 2-1 in overtime. Alex Kerfoot game-winning goal. Is there any other way to see it tonight?
No. Yeah.
It's happening.
With our only goal being by like Benoit as well. It'll be one of those games where you're just like waiting for the top guys to get going. I know Matthews not scoring in 2 games. It feels like what's going on.
I know.
Reeves has scored more goals.
He's cold, Austin Matthews. He's not good. Trade him.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it doesn't pan out the way I was obviously mocking it could. But it looks like, I don't know if you saw from I think they were having a full practice this morning, which is probably going on now, but it looks like Lily again won't be playing.
I saw that.
He skated on his own, but not ready to go. So I was loving seeing that again. Riley Brody playing as a pair or practicing as a pair. So can't wait to see us try to fish pucks out of the net, our own net, with those guys on the ice. But yeah, I mean, it's almost by default. There's not really too many better options, but it would be nice to get a little bit creative if you're Sheldon Keefe, Mike Van Ryn, who's on the defensive
Yeah, I,
responsibilities there. Like, just don't put them together, please.
I get that, but man, it does not look any better. Like, what are
No.
you gonna do? You
Well, they
put
even tried to put Riley on his
you,
offside,
you
and that
put
was even
Riley. Yeah, you put Riley with maybe try him back with Lagesson or put him with Giordano. Like
yeah.
that's your other two defensemen.
Yeah, I mean, do Brody Geo. They played together with the Flames. Like, try something different.
Yeah,
Like there's no pair that I will look at and say, "Oh my god, that is it." Like that's definitely the winning lineup. But we know Riley and Brody does not work.
it doesn't
So,
work anymore.
so
Yeah,
stop trying it.
and
Like, come on, man.
it is going to be Wool tonight.
Is that confirmed?
Yeah,
Okay, because I
he
heard it
was
reported. I didn't see anything from my man
David
David
Alter
Alter.
said that he was the first goalie off the ice at practice, which kind of
Okay,
leads you to believe he's the projected starter.
yeah,
Obviously,
for
things
sure.
can change, but that'll be exciting. He
I
played
like that.
outstanding in that AHL game.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I mean, he looks healthy. I think you're going to have a lot of Leaf fans that are like paranoid about like, no, don't rush him back. Like let him like just be the third guy for another couple weeks. It's like, for me, healthy is healthy. If you have no concerns that he's going to re-aggravate it, and I guess you never, even the best medical opinion within your organization can't say, yeah,
can't
he for
predict it.
sure won't hurt it again. But if they're thinking right now, based on what we've seen, he's no more threat to get himself injured by playing versus, just kind of waiting to heal or playing in the AHL versus the NHL. Yeah, I want to make sure that leading up to the trade deadline, we know that Wall is one of our three capable and healthy goalies. And, does that maybe present an option to hopefully not waive a guy like Jones? But hey, if someone comes over to Tree Living or calls Tree Living the 11th hour and says, hey, we need a goalie, we'd be willing to give you a third or second for Jones. If Wall's healthy, you can at least look into that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. That's what we can get into a little later. Like I was scheming something up along those lines.
Love it.
So I love giving Wool a chance, and especially against this Yotes team that's lost so many games in a row. Like it
Yeah,
seems like a better return game than say the Rangers on Saturday.
for sure. That would be a
So
more physical game. Yep.
and the Rangers are just a better team. So you don't want to. Hopefully, the Leafs can limit scoring chances and shots down to low 20s. Stay out of the
It would be
box and
nice
just
if
kind
you
of
can give
make
him
it
an
an easy
easier
game.
game.
Make it
Yeah.
an easy game for him, and come out with the 2 points, which I guess we haven't done in regulation since like 2002. I saw.
Against the Coyotes.
Yeah,
Is that right? Yeah. It feels
something.
that way. Yeah. Because I know the Coyotes have won at least 5 in a row in Toronto.
I
Maybe
think they
it's
won.
more.
They won last year for sure.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
they won the year before that as well.
Yeah. 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 They definitely have our number. And I want to obviously believe that none of that actually matters because this team does. It does feel different in terms of how they approach games, how they're kind of playing defensively as a team. But yeah, I mean, every team is going to have those, breakdowns. They're going to have those dud of a games where they just don't look themselves. And yeah, the Leafs kind of have had a tendency to play down to their opponent even this year. So yeah, hopefully they can avoid it. But let's kind of get into our mock trade segment. You let me know if you want to tee us up here or you want me to throw one your way first. How do you want to do it?
Yeah, you can throw one out first, then I'll
Okay.
rebuttal it.
Okay, so I have a few. I think I've got like 4 over here. So I'll put one out there and then we're let you go. So I'm going to start with kind of the biggest trade deadline target that maybe the Leafs aren't even in play for. But if there's a way to get your hands on him and he's willing to come here, I think Noah Hanifin should be the Leafs' top target. What I'm looking at here is we get Noah Hanifin with the Flames retaining 25% of his salary in exchange for our 2024 first,
Yeah.
Timothy Liljegren, a 2025 fourth, and a 2025 fifth. Am I crazy? Who says no?
I don't think you're crazy. I think that Hannafin's another left shot defenseman
Yep.
that doesn't really fill the need while getting rid of another right shot defenseman.
Yeah, and I don't think
If
you're done after that. I don't
Yeah,
think you
okay,
don't go
yeah.
out. Yeah,
If
that's
you
one
can
trade.
bring in a Hannafin like on a deal like that and then re-sign him, I think is a big
That
part
would
of
be
it.
the key. Agreed.
Because I wouldn't want to give up Liljegren and a first then for a rental, you know?
No,
Like that would have
100%.
to be it comes with a 5, 6, 7 year deal
For
where
sure.
he's locked up with our core. He's kind of around the same age. I think he was 2015 or 16 draft.
I think so. Yeah. So he's kind of in that
Around
range where, yeah,
15.
like
So he's right
27 years
around,
old.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he'll fit right in with the core.
Yep.
I love the idea of bringing in a Hannafin. He's the best player on the market.
Yeah.
TSN rates him as the number one on their trade bait list. So
And yeah, and we're talk about the Chris Tanev deal in a bit, but like yeah, with Tanev out there, to me, Hannafin is like here in terms of the board, like he's your tier one target. And then I think it's a big drop off unless we have no clue about other guys that could be available.
well,
So
I
he
think
to me is far and away your top target now.
yes, and I think with just going into the Tanev deal, I
Yeah.
think it sets a good market expectation for what a expiring contract defenseman should be. I mean, Tanev, a second. I don't know how good the prospect is. I'll call him a B.
A B at best. Yeah.
I don't think he wouldn't fit into the Dallas A level category. So it's
No, he's
called a
not one
B
of
at
their
best.
top three. They have three amazing guys, and he's not part of that group. That's
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
it's a second and a B level prospect for Tanev, and then a fourth for 25% retention. So
Not bad,
like
huh?
that's not a lot. And
No,
especially when talks around the Leafs were like, you need to give us a first plus for Tanev.
no, agreed. Agreed. And I
So
think the Flames were obvious. They might have overplayed their hand, like they might have, when they kind of, all the reports were that they were asking for first. Yeah. Asking versus what you're actually going to get are always two different conversations. But there were talks that when the Leafs were trying to get a package of Tanev and Nikita Zadorov, that their first was in play at that time.
okay,
So
for both of those
in
guys, I could see it. Yeah.
yeah, but in hindsight, would the Flames have said, "Hey, you know what? We could have had a first." I mean, they didn't get much for Zadorov from
Zborov, yeah, it was
Vancouver,
like a third or
third and a
fourth.
fifth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, you can never say like, "Oh, yeah, if we could have gone back, we would have taken the Leafs offer." But yeah, they might have overplayed their hand, but I don't think they're complaining too much about a second and a guy who projects to maybe be a third pairing NHL D man. It's
Yeah.
not bad for a guy you were going to let walk out the door, probably, anyways.
Yeah. Well, do you believe in the Toronto tax on trades then? Because
A
it
bit.
certainly
I'm
feels
not.
like it exists.
I mean, I think there's obviously that argument probably has some weight to it right now. But I look at it. Look, if Dallas would have only had to give up a third, and a prospect, they'd be like, okay, there's something to that. But the fact that they took a second, I could easily foresee where the conversation with Tree Living was, okay, Brad, we've got a second on the table. You're offering us a third and maybe Robertson, who all the reports so far have been that the Flames have no interest in him.
Yeah.
So were they offering like a Robertson? Were they offering Lily? I doubt it. I don't think Lily in a third for Tanev would have been something Toronto should have done or would have
No,
done.
I think that's a terrible
So
deal. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't think the Leafs were offering something that was better than Dallas, and Dallas said, or Calgary said, yeah, no, for you guys, it's a first. Maybe, but I don't know. I think if you're an NHL GM and worried about, not sending a player to a certain team, whether it's, I don't think there's even that much like spite between Conroy and Tree Living, but maybe there is. I don't think you can, you've got to
It
present
feels like there
every
is.
trade to ownership. You got to present your trade to ownership. If ownership finds out that you took less from Dallas than you could have got from Toronto, I don't know.
I mean, it feels like there's a disconnect there that maybe Conroy doesn't want to deal with Tree Living.
Could be.
I don't know if that's what kind of feels like, especially since every single report I saw from Friedman, Merrick, any of those guys were like, in order to get Tanev in Toronto, it's going to be a first. And then he goes
Yeah.
for the second and a prospect that, doesn't project too highly. You never know how these guys turn out. But so I'll go into my first one. This is kind of just a random one I found. Not exactly a big name at all, but Troy Stetcher from the Yotes. They play them tonight. He's a right-hand defenseman. He's he skates really well. Doesn't exactly put up a ton of points, but has like decent possession numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make a lot of money. I think he's a little over $1 million. That could be someone who he's a UFA at the end of the year. Here's a third
rental?
or fourth round pick, and we'll take him off your hands. He kind of fills a right-hand shot role. He's an NHL defenseman, better than most. So just something small.
Play above a couple of our guys that are playing tonight, so I can see where that would be viewed as an upgrade.
We'll see. Like he'll play tonight, and if he stands out, maybe I'll feel more confident than I do right now. But that's what I just threw out there. Low money, low risk.
You said really for a third, for like a third or fourth would be your proposal.
I would say after 10, for a second and a B. I would say for him maybe a third and a C.
Okay.
I could see that.
Yeah, I don't mind the player. So if that, I haven't heard his name mentioned a lot. I know he was injured earlier, so maybe that's why there wasn't much talk around them. But he's always kind of been that player that's played decent minutes wherever he went. I mean, I think he'd be a good right shot, as you said. So I think there could be something there.
He has played in playoffs before as well.
Right.
So, he's just a guy that you never know.
Yeah, no, I don't mind that one at all. That's pretty solid. Okay, so let's get into my next one here. Where are we going to go? Okay, one that I like, and I feel that there could be something to it. We've kind of heard that the Leafs have had either Brad Tree Living himself or one of their scouts at a couple Buffalo Sabre games. What I'm proposing here, Brad Tree Living, make this happen, please. We get Connor Clifton, another right shot defenseman who likes to throw it around a little bit, physical, at 25% retained. He's got some term on him. I think he's got 2 more years at in or around $3 million after this year. And Jordan Greenway, who's an absolute monster.
Power forward,
physical, can play on your PK. Obviously not a top 6 guy, but more of your top 9 or high-end line 4 guy, but can kill some penalties. He's not a complete hack or a goon. He's a decent player. We would give up. We would give up Nick Robertson, and I hear everyone on Leafs Twitter crying right now. Callie Yardcroak, more to make the kind of salaries work a little bit better.
Okay.
Nick Abruzzese, and a 4th round pick.
All right, I like that. I really like that. I think that Buffalo would be trying to get out of his term. So out of
it's 2 older players, right? Like Clifton, I think, is 28. Greenway's 27. The Sabres aren't close to winning. So would they want to, as you said, would they want to get out of those contracts for a couple younger guys?
And they have some guys that are becoming, they have to pay Middlestat. They have to pay Benson in 2 years. Paterka's 1 year away. Like they have guys that are, getting close. UPL, he's really stepped up. He's playing great. And so they'll have to pay him this year. So yeah, the Sabres have some money that they need to throw around. And so yeah, $3 million off their books for
Right.
cheap. I like that.
Yeah.
Clifton also, he has playoff experience with the Bruins. He's gone
Bruins. Yeah.
far.
And he could be playing against the Bruins if he's on our side. So,
Yeah,
there could be some.
I really like the Jordan Greenway because he does
Yeah.
kill penalties. He's a good PKer. He's a
Yeah.
big body, which
And him and Clifton, I think, would all automatically, maybe aside from Simone Benoit, be like our probably most physical guys on the team in terms of throwing hits, making sure they finish hits. So I just think that's kind of where Tree Living could be going, other than obviously trying to target, maybe a guy like Hannafin, the best D-man available. How do we get tougher in the, whether it's our D2 pair, our blue line, whether it's our third line forward? I think that should be a focus, and hopefully it will be.
yeah, and I think Leaf fans, a lot of Leaf fans, I feel like I relate them to cavemen. Like Leaf fans see a big guy who throws the body, and they're like, "Ooh, big hit! I like big hit." And then
There's a lot of that. Yep.
and then they're like, "That guy's so good. He throws big hits." I feel like that's partially why Benoit has become kind of like a folk hero in Toronto
Yep.
because he throws hits and he gets in scrums after the whistle, and that's all Leaf fans really want. So,
Well, that's why we were excited about Ryan Reeves. I think a lot of Leaf fans were like, "Oh yeah, here we go."
yeah, there
And
was a
then when,
second. Yeah, exactly. There was a few seconds where everybody was like, "Oh, big hits, fights, nice."
yeah, and
Reminds me of Darcy Tucker. Like,
yeah, there's definitely a lot of that kind of awful narrative that in today's NHL, you need to have a bunch of those guys, and that's the only way to win. I'm the same way. I find that's kind of like crazy talk right now, seeing as how teams that have won, they don't employ, all physical guys throughout their team. They have some element of that. But the idea that if you're not big and you're not tough, you have no chance is
yeah,
obviously
I believe
ridiculous.
in. I believe more so in team toughness than in
Yeah.
individual players' toughness. I feel like it's a culture thing. It's not like Tampa.
Yeah.
Tampa had Pat Maroon, I guess, during their cup runs, but besides
Blake
that,
Coleman.
they didn't exactly have guys who were like known aggressors. Like they just had bigger guys who were willing to get in scrums after the whistle. Like even Kucherov, he's not afraid to dust it up. Like he gives you a
Right.
good cheap shot every now and then. Stamkos drops the gloves. Like they just
Yep.
have guys willing to step in there. And I mean, I think of Tampa is a perfect setting, like a projection for what the Leafs should want to be.
Yeah.
A highly skilled team that has a great culture, and I think that's what we should be going for.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, obviously, with that trade, I am kind of, I guess, taking the side of the boomers out there who just want big bodies to kind of muck it up. But, as we talked
But
about, both
yeah,
Clifton and Greenway can play. We're not
yeah,
talking about just
exactly.
adding a guy because he's 6'8".
Yeah,
These guys can play, and not expecting them to jump in and be crazy impactful on our top lines and our, Greenway would be a penalty killer and play 10 minutes, 12 minutes a night. But I think there is a need for that. I'd rather see him there than Robertson, frankly.
and kind of going down that same kind of path. A lot of people have been talking about Anthony Mantha.
I have a
And
mock on him. Yeah, let's go.
yeah, and I didn't really. I'm just comparing him to Greenway because they're both kind
Uh-huh.
of that power forward type, but they play different kind of styles. Mantha's more of a power play scoring touch, while you
He can
said it,
put the puck in the net. Greenway, not
Greenway
so
can
much.
Greenway's more of a help your PK, which I think is more of what we
Right.
need. But both
Fair.
guys, I do think kind of fit that mold of what Leaf Nation wants. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I don't have anything on Mantha, but I do have another Washington Capital.
Yeah.
Right hand defenseman Nick Jensen. Nick
Mm-hmm.
Jensen.
Yep.
He's making
Like it.
around $4 million, I think.
Yeah, I think he's around the 4 with
He's like
like some term on him.
4,050,000. So I have them
Yeah.
retaining 1.3. I don't know what the percentage is on that, but bring his
Yeah.
salary down to 2.75. It's a nice number.
Yeah.
And in exchange, I feel like we're just gonna have a ton of Nick Robertson in there. I have Robertson. I have Robertson going with Timmins and a third. It definitely could be more so. Uh, it's because we don't have a second. I don't think a first is worth it for Jensen, so
It's
it's
not,
hard.
no, too
But
much.
definitely, maybe instead of Robertson, they would have their choice of a Niemela, perhaps
Yeah.
someone down that line. But Jensen has a couple years left at what we would have him at 275, right-hand defenseman, more defensively minded. I
Yeah.
think he could be a potential partner for Riley for the next couple of years. We'll see.
Yep.
But
Agreed.
Jensen is getting up there
He's
more so
solid.
in age. He's like 32, 33, so
Mhm.
a little bit
Yeah.
smaller. Yeah.
No, I totally like that deal. I mean, I think Leafs Twitter would eat you alive for giving up Nick Robertson and a third, with just the way people seem to be overvaluing Nick Robertson. But
I
I
feel
just
like
think
Nick
he is
Robertson,
what he is, and it's not much in my mind.
he's the odd man out in this group, in my
Right.
opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Because we talked about it on Tuesday's show. Like, I don't feel like he has a role in the lineup. He's not
No,
PP1, doesn't kill penalties. He doesn't fit the mold
not
of a
tough.
third checking line guy. He
And look,
doesn't
yeah, I
get
mean, if he was producing, I'd be on board. But the guy's got one goal in his last 13 games. So this whole idea that he's some top end offensive talent is just not what we're seeing lately. Like, I get it. He's got the skill, he's got the talent, he has a great shot, but at some point, you get a certain amount of time to prove yourself in the NHL. And I know he's had a tough go of it with injuries and what have you, but you can no longer, if you're a Leaf fan, say Nick Robertson, you can't trade him because he just needs more opportunity and he will excel. No, he's got opportunity. He's got the
yeah.
same opportunity McMahon has had. And McMahon's done a hell of a lot more with that. So you're telling me Nick Robertson is about to show us something else in the last 20, 30 games and then playoffs? No, I'm done with it.
Yeah,
I'm
same
over him.
here.
I'm
Right,
over
so
him.
basically, for me, every trade I have is him because I still think he holds value. I wouldn't
I
call
hope
him
so. I don't
I
know.
wouldn't
Yeah.
call him the main focal point in my bigger trades, more outlandish types, dream swing for the fence trades that I have coming up. But
Right. I mean, you're not throwing him in with anything to get Noah Hannafin. Flames are hanging up the phone. But when you're talking about Nick Jensen types, yeah, sure. I think the Caps could see value in that.
I
You
definitely do.
shed money. You get a young guy that is obviously more project than instant plug him into your first line with Ovi and he starts sniping. No.
And
But yeah,
like it kind of fits. Yeah, he has a lot of top six upside, and I think that's exactly what the Caps need. The problem with the Caps this year is that they just don't score enough goals.
right.
Right? I feel like they need a younger player with team control that won't make a lot of money to play alongside Ovi in his kind of final years as he chases the record, which I think more is what's going to go on in Washington. They're not actually
Pretty
competing.
much.
It's
Yeah.
just more of a show. So yeah, I definitely think that could work for both sides. I mean, the Caps have room for retention, so
Yeah.
taking $1 million of Jensen's money for the next 3 years, I don't think would harm them very much.
Yeah. Well, and also their head coach, what is it? Carberry was our assistant coach. So could there
Yeah, so
be
we have a
some
good connection there.
familiarity? If
Yeah,
you were talking trade with Washington, Carberry
yeah.
could probably say, like, yeah, this guy, yeah, I wouldn't mind bringing him in or I wouldn't. So I like that. So let's kind of stay on the Washington theme here because I also had a Nick Jensen offer as well. And the other guy we talked about, Anthony Mantha, I was going to look at bringing in both those guys in the
Mm.
same trade. I had 25% retained on Jensen, 50 on Mantha, because I think his AAVs in or around or close to 4.55.
I
So
think he's
definitely would
closer
need
to
some help.
6.
Is he really? Okay. So definitely need the 50% retention. if you can get 25 from Washington and maybe a third party in there. So yeah, definitely with heavy retention. And then I would be offering Robertson, Niemela, and a third-round pick.
All right, so yeah, we're on the same page for that, for those two
Valuations,
kind
yeah.
of guys. I definitely think as well, if you want to bring in Mantha, it'd be better to go the double retention where Washington holds 50 because he's an expiring contract anyways, then send out another fourth, which it seems like is the standard for 25%
A
retention.
broker, yeah.
The fourth round pick to take some money. You can find a team like a Buffalo or a
easily.
I don't know, another team that's not competing, the Coyotes.
Yeah, there's going to be a ton of that in the next week where you got like Anaheim, San Jose just signing up for like $2 million of some contract
you just give them
to help the deal.
Throw them a pick,
Yeah.
I definitely like that for both those guys. So another guy I've found is Adam Boqvist on the Blue Jackets. The Blue Jackets have a couple guys who are interesting. They have Boqvist and they have Peak, both in their.
Leaf Twitter loves Andrew Peak. They always have.
I'm less high on Peak than Leafs Twitter is. I like Boqvist more because I feel like they're going to be around the same tag. They're both early 20s, but Boqvist has that first round pedigree. He was a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
He has more offensive flair. He skates really well.
Yeah.
And I just think that he could be someone you could play alongside Riley in a more offensive role, someone who could complement him. And, I think it could work. I don't know how he has RFA rights at the end of the year. It doesn't look like the Blue Jackets want to keep him around just based off the fact he's been a scratch multiple times this year. They have
a lot of big contracts on their D.
Yeah, year checks there, spot checks there as well.
Zach Werenski, you got Provorov.
So he's making 2.6.
Okay.
At that point,
yeah, I like the player, but what do we have to trade in your mind? Or what would you give up?
Columbus is hard because it's not. I wouldn't say a Robertson fits their mold, but
we also can't offer him to everybody.
Yeah, it seems like we're so. I'm trying to think of someone that's not Robertson to throw in that would fit.
I think any like Cowan, Minton, too much. I think
Lily. So it'd probably go. It'd probably be. No, but is a Niemela for Boqvist flip really worth it? It feels like a lateral move because I think Niemela still projects as an NHLer.
He's on that cusp for sure. I think he's got a chance. Yeah.
I think just based off of his resume, Niemela, I mean, he won top defenseman at World Juniors, which is for, it's a World Juniors award, but you look at the history of top defensemen at the tournament, and they're all NHL players. So
yeah, I mean, it's all about that kind of like bird in hand type of mentality. Like your front office or scouting team might say, yeah, Niemela might be better than Boqvist, but Niemela's not playing on our team right now. He's not ready to contribute. So do we make that trade where worst case scenario, we find out in 2 years or 3 years that Niemela is just as good as Boqvist? I think that's where it comes down to.
If you want to do, I wouldn't be opposed to a Niemela and a fifth. The Leafs have 3 fifths this year, so you can do some condition on that fifth where it's Niemela and the second highest of the 3 fifth-round picks they have gets sent to Columbus. Something with a condition like that. He has RFA with Arbright, so he's going to stick around. He's kind of forced to.
Yeah, you'd have that extra control where you don't have to worry about competing in the UFA market. So, yeah, I definitely like the player. I've thought about that name a couple times. Haven't really heard too many reports coming out of like the Blue Jackets in terms of what they're going to do. They just fired their GM.
Yeah, they don't have a GM right now.
Yeah, it's pretty much, I think their president, John Davidson, is in the interim probably with the assistant GM, probably going to be the one handling that. But they've got a lot of guys that could have some interest, whether you look at an Eric Branson, probably more of a high-end D3 guy, but again, a physical guy. Could
I
be
feel like
under PK, block shots.
Goodbranson's another guy that fits the Leaf caveman role.
For
Like
sure.
the big
But
guy
I think he could.
big guy hit.
But he
And
also has the Brad Tree Living familiarity. He had
yeah,
him when he
and
was with the Flames.
I feel like he's just another defenseman that doesn't have a ton of foot speed. I
No, he
mean,
does not. But if he's
so
playing instead
we're
of
just
Gio or Brody,
adding
yeah,
to it. Like I feel like we need another puck moving mobile defenseman that
Mhm.
can also be that top 4 guy. It's so hard to find, yes, but
Yeah.
like a Noah
Oh, but
Hanifin,
that's why we already got Noah Hanifin. We already made that
yeah,
trade.
that's good. That's
He's already going to be playing next week. He's in the lineup. No, like I agree. Like I wouldn't say a guy like Branson would really excite me, but if you told me that the cost to acquire was significantly less than maybe some of these like guys like a Sean Walker that might cost a little bit more, I'd be okay with that. But like I agree, he's not. I don't even have a mock trade at Goodbranson because he's not one of my top targets. I think he's playing third pairing in Columbus, so that kind of tells you how much he could potentially help.
yeah,
But
but did you see
it's a name out there.
jump? Did you see him jump Nick Cousins that one time?
I sure
Like,
did, and I love that.
I think we should give up our first round pick for him right away. Come
Yeah, I
on.
think I'd bring him in just for that alone. If we
Yeah.
play Florida, throw him into the lineup. Totally. Okay, so here's another one I've got. So I'm picking up the phone and calling Ron Francis with the Seattle Kraken. And I am asking for Will Borgen, big right shot D-man, and soon to be UFA centerman Alex Wenberg,
Okay, I
getting
like that.
25% on Alex Wenberg. In exchange, I'm giving up, again, Nick Robertson, a third and a fourth. I'm thinking it's probably a little bit light, probably needs something more added to it from our side.
I think
But if
maybe another like a guy like an Abruzzese or a Steves could
Sure.
swing that. A guy
Sure.
who 2 guys who are borderline NHL ready, I think could easily swing that deal.
Yeah.
I
Like
feel like
obviously on Seattle, I love Adam Larson. I don't think Seattle's moving him.
yeah, and Friedman said the same thing. He said Larson's off the table. I loved the idea of him.
Yeah.
Because
He's
I
got
would
like
give up
4 mil, 2 more
for
years. You're not trading
yeah,
him. He's playing more minutes than
I'd
any
give up a good
D-man.
haul. I'd give
Yeah.
up a good haul for a Larson.
Yeah. Your first
I
round pick, and I think even a Minton's in there
I
for
would
me.
do a first round pick and a Minton right away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a different changer. That's a difference maker right away that you
Yeah.
throw in
Moves the
alongside
needle.
Riley, and he makes Riley super playable in every situation like you've been wanting,
Yeah.
and just really rounds out that 6th defense for our playoff run. He hits, he blocks, he's everything that we really need. Unfortunately, unless
Agreed.
you probably approach Seattle with a first round pick, Cowan and Robertson, maybe I don't even think they look at it, honestly.
Yeah, no, I don't. I was looking at him for a while and being like, oh, if Seattle falls out of playoff contention, would they? I'm like, no. Like, I don't think Jamie Alexiak is available either. I think Seattle would be willing to move their UFA, so that's why I got Wenberg in there. I think Jordan Eberle would be available,
But
but
even
yeah,
like Morgan's got another year. He does it. He makes a
yeah.
modest cap. How much does Wenberg make? 4.5.
Wenberg is
Make that
around
work.
that 4.5. So
I feel
you
like
need retention.
yeah, or you'd probably have to send Yarncroke back the other way.
Yeah, Yarncroke. If
Just
you want to
make the money work.
Agreed.
Well, this is where I get a little bit wild with it, and you'll just have to stay. You just have to stand with me here. So
Okay.
my first one is Pavel Buchnevich from the Blues. We'll get him in a 7th. I threw the 7th in there just cause whatever.
A 7th, okay.
So Buchnevich, obviously the big piece. He has 1 more year left at I think 5.8.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start off with Brody has to go in for the money.
Mm-hmm.
Our first round pick. And their choice of really Niemela or Nick Moldenhauer, who I think is going to be a really good player.
Yeah, he's on the radar in terms of prospect watch for sure. Yeah,
So
I don't mind that. I think it kind of feels fair and something the Blues would entertain, depending on how they obviously feel about the prospects or whatever. But I think a first round pick for Buchnevich, I think gets you in the door in a conversation and just about what you're willing to add on to that. But I like the
then
player.
because I think Buchnevich would walk into Toronto, you could immediately throw him first line, second line, third line. He can be on your
Yeah.
power play 1, he can be on your power play 2. He'll kill penalties for you. He's on the top PK unit in St. Louis.
Yeah.
He's used to
He's a
playing
great
with
player.
He's used to playing with great players. He played in the Rangers with not so great players and with great players again in New York. So I think he's a perfect guy obviously we'd have to do Brody because money has to work, and I don't think Blues want to retain anything.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
like I think Brody's going to be the obvious guy that you would hope you can move. I just don't know if you can with the no movement clause that he's
he only
got.
has
He's
the thing is he only has an 8 or 10 team
10.
no move, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of bad places to play hockey in the NHL.
yeah,
Something tells me St. Louis isn't going to be in the bottom 10 or bottom 8.
yeah. Like I was coming at it more from we know Brody's been going through some tough times
Yeah,
off the ice. His wife, he had his father pass away. I think before training camp. Would you, if you're Brad Tree Living, have the cajones to go to Brody and say, yeah, we want to ship you to St. Louis? I don't know. Like, I hate that probably would
I,
have to be a consideration. I just worry that Brody ain't going anywhere because of that. I don't know.
I think you would start with, you'd be like, hey, TJ, can you submit
I
your
like the opening. Very polite. I like that.
can you submit your 8 team no trade list where
Yeah.
you're shopped, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I mean, it
I would.
sucks, but it's the human side of the business. I get
Right.
that, but
It's tough.
he makes
It's tough.
5 mil, and he's in my next deal as well, which is even more outlandish, but it's with our old friend Kyle Dubas.
Whoa. That could get exciting. I love it. Let's go.
So this is completely just in the head. But Jake Gensel
You just tell me you're
at
not going after
50%.
Crosby. Okay.
At Jake Gensel at 50%. So
Okay.
they're saying that the ask on Gensel is multiple first
I
round picks or a first round pick and an equivalent to a first round pick.
okay.
So
Yeah. And you
I
also
feel
want
like
50% retained. Okay.
we'll need that brings him down to 3 mil.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh's not. It doesn't seem like they're going to be able to re-sign him. The Leafs don't even have to
Doubtful.
re-sign him either. This is an all-in push
Okay.
to win.
Rental.
Yeah, it's a pure rental, which goes against what Tree Living says he wants to do. But I
Right.
think if you want to win the cup, this is kind of what you have to do, and the return would have to be you start with the first, and then Dubas's guy. He probably values him a lot. Fraser Minton.
Think that's enough? I don't know.
I've
I don't
seen
know.
it's first round pick and first round equivalent. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like Dubas would value Minton as a first.
Yeah.
He's a young guy. Dubas drafted him. I think Dubas has shown that he has a lot of loyalty to his guys.
Definitely.
I think
Yeah.
I think that could work with obviously maybe a yarn croak in there to make the money work, even out.
Yeah.
I don't think I think that like a lot of the mock trades I've seen online are worse than that what I just proposed.
Yeah. Like I don't think the return is that far off. It might need something added on, which I don't think is going to be too crazy. I think you've got most of what would be required to match for Gensel's value if Dubas knows he's not going to re-sign him. I guess where I'd kind of be worried is, do you not want to save your first round pick if that's kind of the key asset you're looking to move? Do you not want to save that for a D-man?
Oh,
That's
100%.
it. Yeah. But
100%. But I don't think that there's a lot of D-men on the
that
market
deserve it.
that would or deserve a first round pick. I'd rather do this and package my first round pick with Minton and just another piece.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a Yarn Crook, maybe it's a Steves or something like that.
Right.
Then put my first round pick in a Matt Dumba at 50%.
Yeah. Yeah. I think with the first
I
round
feel
pick,
like I'd feel even worse about that.
right. Yeah. Like
Or
I think with the first round pick, I think based on what has been reported, like Tree Living would obviously, in an ideal situation, like to be able to use it to get a package, whether it's a D and a forward, that would kind of be ideal. But I don't hate the idea of, hey, if Jake Gensel, other than Hannafin, is the best guy that could be available, yeah. I mean, obviously, if he is able to come here, even if it is on a rental assumption, yeah, I'd give up my first
it's
for him for sure.
it's an all-in swing that says, "We believe in this group. Now
Yeah.
go out there and we should have 0 problems scoring goals in playoffs."
Right.
Gensel has won, I think, multiple cups. I'm pretty sure he was there for both.
He might have been. He might have been. I think the timeline would, yeah, he would have been there in 2017 for sure, which was their most
He's
recent
a
one.
but regardless, he's a proven goal scorer. He's
Yeah.
like we should, and the Leafs' biggest problem come playoff time has been scoring goals. This should be a zero excuse ploy. We got it. We're going all in, and
All right.
hopefully this comes with also moving Robertson and maybe a fourth or a third, and you get a serviceable right hand defenseman that can slot in, even if it's
Right.
I hate to say it, even if it's a Labushkin that can come back and go back into his
Yeah.
role with Riley. But obviously, you're not just going to make the Gensel move because it doesn't fit your biggest hole. But man, would
Right.
that be a
Yeah.
big swing?
Yeah. 100%. Like, and I do kind of like the idea. I still kind of like push back on the idea that, being able to score has been, I know there's obviously, you can say that based on past postseason playoff series, yeah, we haven't been scoring at a high rate. But, in terms of what I've seen when we play up against the Floridas and Tampas and previous series that we've lost, like our defense isn't good enough to handle those teams. Like, yeah, are we holding them to 2, 3, sometimes 4 goals a game? Sure. And are we only scoring 2 goals a game in those ones that we lose? Yeah. But I still think having that D and focusing on adding a impact, a needle moving blue liner, to me, if I was prioritizing, it would still be D over forward.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
I
Yeah,
think to your point, yeah, if you have a first round pick that you're going to dangle, there's probably not a D-man other than Hannafin that deserves that first round return. So
I
if
think
you can get Gensel for a first and a little bit more, I'm down
I
with
think
that.
if I had to rank my use of the first round pick, I'd probably go Bushnevich first. I think Bushnevich would be a perfect player for the Leafs. I think that it's more
Familiarity.
I think it's more reasonable to assume that we could get him for a first and with a little bit extra than to I don't know how much Dubas is going to ask for. It's that's
Oh,
completely
I mean, if he knows that Shanahan is on the line, he's going to ask for a lot more.
yeah, it sounds like it. But
Yeah.
Edmonton seems to be in on Gensel and the on cap
Yeah, I
friendly,
heard
the
that.
people, these Edmonton fans that are like, oh, we're going to get Gensel for Dylan Holloway, who's basically Nick Robertson and Edmonton in a
And
first.
yeah, for Holloway and like CC and Ryan McLeod. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's happening.
yeah, McLeod or Fogle. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
is that
Yeah,
any
like
better?
I think we have our own delusional fans within our group that probably have similar deals, but because like I even I think on Twitter I put out that Buffalo Saber one with like Connor Clifton and Jordan Greenway for like basically Robertson, Yarncroke, and like a mid round pick, like a fourth or a fifth, and got hate, got absolute shrapnel thrown in me. Like, no, like Nick Robertson for that return? Are you kidding me? Like, what do you think Nick Robertson is, guys?
Yeah,
He's
I
not
mean,
it. He's not it.
we got
Anyways,
I guess we got Sandine for a first, and it gave unreasonable expectations to Leaf fans on what to
maybe.
expect from Robertson.
It's a good point. That's a good point. And I think we do it with all our prospects, right? Like, I mean, even now, like, I know, like, whenever it is and we make those trades, and if Tree Living is going big game hunting, if he's looking for guys like Gensel, like Hannafin, like, I don't think Pareko's a target, but like a guy like that in that kind of tier, he is going to have to move first round pick and or Minton and or Niemela to get some of those names. And Leafs Twitter is going to be in shambles because they're like, oh, I don't really know enough about Hannafin. All I know is how did you give up Nick Robertson and Minton? It's like, dude, come on. Like, these guys aren't going to be needle movers. And even if they are, like a guy like Niemela, a guy like Minton, he ain't helping you win a
Right
cup in the
now.
next 2 years.
Yeah,
Get over it.
yeah, which is which is what we need. We need help now, and
Yeah.
so find that guy.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, that was kind of it for my mocks, but did you have any other mocks or any other player, any other name you've kind of heard being rumored that you would like the Leafs to get their hands on?
Clayton Keller would be nice.
Keller would be nice.
If we're
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
see him
curious to know
tonight,
what Arizona would be moving.
we're gonna see him tonight. But I was talking about it with my friend actually last night. I was like, man, Clayton Keller would be so nice alongside Matthews on the top line.
Yeah. Yeah, that would
Wouldn't
be
that be
a
something? I don't know
instant
how.
connection.
I don't know how you would make that work.
No,
It'd be
I don't think you can.
darn near impossible. But
Yeah.
man,
I
would
mean,
that
and
be nice?
yeah, if you're going all in and you could do like a Clayton Keller, Matt Dumba package, like I don't even want to speculate what that would cost. It would be like crazy high price.
Well,
But
You got Keller at 7 and a bit for the foreseeable future, so it automatically have to start with Brody Yarncroke for money, and then a first round pick, Cowan, and
mm,
Robertson, and
and
both.
yeah, like I at all costs, I don't want to give up Cowan. Like, would I do it for Clayton Keller? I
100%.
don't know. You would, eh? I don't know.
100%. If the money would
I
work,
like the player,
if the money works, 100%. Because
but the money wouldn't
you're
work.
wishing
Yeah.
for Cowan to turn into a Keller.
Well, I feel like Cowan is like kind of like a Darcy Tucker on steroids, like more offensively minded and capable. Like, I get it, that probably is his ceiling, but you talk to like a lot of scouts. I mean, right now they're saying if Cowan was in the draft this year,
He'd be top
easily
10.
would be a top 10.
Yeah. I think I really like what I've seen from Cowan. I've just seen his highlights really, and
Yeah.
this long ass freaking point streak he's on.
Yeah.
Which
26. I don't know what, I think they played last night against Oshawa. I'm not sure if he extended it.
it's gonna be fun when it comes to next season and training camp rolls in, and we're like, all right, Minton's gonna make the team out of camp, and he's making 893 grand.
Yeah.
And Cowan's going to make the team out of camp, and he's only making 925. And it looks like Cowan's going to play second line. That's when it's going to be fun again.
Yeah, and I think that's where I would be. I wouldn't trade Cowan if the organization feels that Cowan could be in our lineup next year. I don't think I would move him. And I think that, like with Minton,
I think there's zero chance he goes back to junior.
if he has the kind of camp he had this year, I would agree.
He's forced your hand to be like, we have to give Cowan at least 9 games.
Yeah, but then I guess you're not bringing back like a Max Domi then.
No.
Like, you can't have Matthews, JT, Max Domi, and then also expect Cowan and Minton to make the team.
No.
Like, yeah, maybe one can shift to the wing, but if these are the guys that you're investing in and these are your future contributors, you probably don't want to say, yeah, Cowan's on the team, but we're going to play him on the wing, even though he's more of a center. So you'd have to make room by saying goodbye to Domi, probably.
Yeah. which is
which
unfortunate.
I wouldn't cry about, but right now, I mean, I've seen enough from
Or
Domi
you
to
just say, Domi, learn how to play freaking left wing, bro.
he
Learn how
has
to
in the
play left
past. He
wing.
could. Yeah.
Because the time he played left wing this year, he was trash. So it's like, learn how to
Yeah.
play left wing and you could stay here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot
Oh,
of things up in the air, but yeah, like I think if Cowan is like projected to be in their opening night lineup, and I don't see any reason why we wouldn't right now. But you never know what happens. He could come in and not have a good camp,
yeah,
and he
very.
doesn't convince them to at least begin with the team. They're like, yeah, go back down to London, tear it up, and we'll see you in like December type thing. But
Man, he's reached that point, in my opinion, where at the end of the season, he's gonna have the longest point streak in London Knights history, which I think maybe he already has it, but
yeah,
in
I think he
OHL
already broke
history,
it, didn't
he's
he?
close. I think he's close to OHL history. I think that one's 30 games and he's at 27.
Yeah.
So he's closing in on that. And you're gonna be like, yeah, I know you just dominated the OHL, won the OHL Cup, won the Mem Cup, but now go back and do it again. It's not good for his development, and he can't play in the
No.
NHL because he's still so young. So it's
Yeah.
like he's forced your hand. Okay, here, play your NHL games.
Yeah, and I'm not saying don't give him that opportunity, but you probably don't write his name in pen on your second line yet. It's like he's still a young guy. You got to prove yourself, but
Yeah,
I agree. It's probably
it's
not a
fine now.
situation where you're not projecting him to be a part of your top 12 forwards next year.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
so we're kind of close to time, but just looking at tonight for all the people who want to throw some money on a wager tonight, the Maple Leafs are minus 245 on the money line. So no
Slam the
point to
Oats.
even watch the game. It's a win,
Slam
clearly.
the Oats.
Well, and that's why we were talking about like the Vegas odds, like on Tuesday. At least we're minus 170, minus 165 against Vegas. And I was like, that seems a little bit aggressive. Tonight seems probably more in line. I mean, I think when you look at Arizona losing 13 in a row, yeah, minus 245 feels like what it should be, but obviously not going to touch that. That's way too juicy to put on a bet ticket for me.
Mm-hmm. I like Yotes money line.
Yeah, I won't ever make a bet on the other
Yotes money
team.
line and under 6.5.
Yeah,
That's
and anytime goal scorer Alex Kerfoot, just put a mortgage on it. Mortgage on Kerfoot goal.
no, and Matthews will get off his slump tonight and score. So
Yeah, I think that would be a solid
that'd be nice.
bet. Go with the Austin Matthews anytime, and yeah, it's got to be over tonight. I think over 6.5 would be the play for
With
me.
Wall coming back, really?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
I think the unders. I think the unders hitting tonight.
Yeah, it definitely could be a 4-1. I forgot for a minute about Wall being back in there. Yeah, it's gonna be like 4-1,
And no
3-1
Keller.
Toronto.
And no Keller.
That's right. Yeah,
So
that's fair.
even more reason why the Yotes are gonna win.
Yeah, exactly. All the reasons you can come up with. Yeah, the Leafs have Wall back. They, Keller's not in. Yeah, okay. Take Arizona on the money line. Done
Yeah,
deal.
yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right. Well, hopefully they do get the dub tonight. Enjoy it, and yeah,
Yeah,
have a
I'll
good
see you
weekend.
next week.
You got it, man. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
See ya.